Welcome back to the channel. Today, I want to dedicate this entire video to breaking down a series of interesting changes that have just been announced for DC, Dark Legion. This isn't a massive update that introduces a brand new champion or an entirely new game mode. Instead, it's more of a system refinement update, but that's exactly why it matters. These changes will directly affect how you play the game every single day. I'll go through each change, like explain what it means for you, and share some personal advice based on my own experience grinding the game. Let's start with the new event called Feline Fugitive, which will go live on July 10th. The only requirement to participate is having your war room at level 10. If you're a newer player, this milestone isn't particularly difficult to reach, so almost everyone should be able to join the event. As for the gameplay, you'll use Bat GPRs to search for hidden treasures across the map, solve puzzles left behind by Catwoman, and exchange your findings for rewards. While participating, you'll also earn Thieves' Market tokens, which can be spent on valuable items in the event shop. My advice here is simple. If you're a free-to-play player, it's worth spending some gems to buy a few Bat GPRs during the first couple of days so you can participate. Try to earn enough tokens to exchange for around 5 to 15 anvils, then stop and don't keep pushing the event. It's simply too expensive after that. Gems are quite difficult to earn, so I really don't recommend dumping a large amount of them into what is essentially a luck-based event. Next up is what I think is the biggest highlight of this update, the changes to the Justice League faction bonus. Previously deploying 3,
I am Superman.
4, or 5 Justice League champions granted 10%, 20%, and 30% ATK and HP respectively. After the update, the bonus will instead grant 10%, 20%, and 30% attack and max HP, while also adding 10%, 20%, and 30% ultimate damage. In other words, this isn't just a wording change, it's actually a significant buff for Justice League teams. You keep the same offensive and survivability bonuses as before, but now you also gain an additional layer of ultimate damage on top of everything else. For anyone already building around the Justice League tag, this is fantastic news. The overall power of the faction should increase noticeably, especially in battles where chaining ultimates is a major part of your damage output. My recommendation is that if you've been debating whether to invest in a Justice League team or another faction, now is a pretty good time to lean toward Justice League. After this update, I honestly feel like the developers are starting to give this faction much more attention. We've already seen the reworks for Hawkgirl and Martian Manhunter, then the addition of Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, and now the faction itself is receiving a buff. To me, all of these signs point toward Justice League becoming a much stronger faction in the near future. Moving on to the champion level cap, the developers have updated the sync boost leveling rules, increasing the champion level cap all the way to level 700. Once you reach that point, you won't be able to level your champions any further. This is more of a long-term progression expansion designed for veteran players who have accumulated plenty of resources and already maxed out most of the game's existing systems. If you're a newer or mid-game player, honestly, this change probably won't affect you anytime soon. Reaching the previous level cap already takes a very long time, let alone pushing all the way to level 700. That said, I still recommend paying close attention to how sync works after the update. The new leveling rules could change the progression speed or the upgrade costs, so make sure to check the system carefully in-game and adjust your long-term resource investment plan accordingly. Now let's talk about what I believe will be the most controversial change in the community. The adjustments to Gotham Processing in both Battle for Gotham and Ultimate Battle for Gotham. Specifically, the number of Gotham Processing sites that spawn on the map has been reduced, and the amount of battle honor you earn from occupying them has also been lowered. To put it simply, this is a nerf. If you've been farming battle honor primarily through Gotham Processing, you're probably going to be disappointed. However, I also think it's worth understanding why the developers made this decision. According to the development team, the main reason is that after multiple server merges, the world map became far too crowded. Players barely had enough space to move around or relocate their bases. On top of that, many players were focusing almost exclusively on farming battle honor from Gotham Processing instead of actually participating in PvP battles, which goes against the intended gameplay experience of these game modes. The developers also acknowledged that players would likely have concerns about this change, and they've confirmed that they're currently working on introducing a new type of structure to Gotham as compensation. Their current goal is to release it before the end of July, although that timeline could still change. My advice here is not to panic if you notice your Battle Honor income dropping over the next few weeks. This is a deliberate trade-off intended to improve the overall gameplay experience across the server. And it sounds like the developers already have plans to introduce a new structure that should help compensate for the loss in the near future. Next, we have Great Krypton Rush, which has also received changes to its registration and matchmaking rules. Specifically, you now need at least 10 players to register for the mode. And matchmaking also requires a minimum of 10 players assigned as starters before a match can begin. Um, in my opinion, this change is intended to improve match quality by preventing games from starting with too few participants, which often leads to unbalanced matches and an incomplete gameplay experience. If you usually play Great Krypton Rush with your league or a group of friends, my advice is to coordinate ahead of time and encourage more members to join. That way, you'll have no trouble meeting the minimum player requirement instead of registering only to discover that the match can't start. Another smaller change that's worth mentioning is the combat cycle. During Phase 2 of the combat cycle, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow has officially been added to the pool of featured daily champions. She's included under both the Justice League and Superman Family recommended tags. This becomes particularly interesting when you combine it with the Justice League faction bonus buff we talked about earlier. It's pretty clear that the developers are actively pushing both the strength and the popularity of Justice League teams during this period. If you own Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, this is a great opportunity to get more value out of her in combat cycle, especially if your roster is already built around either the Justice League or Superman Family factions. Finally, this update also includes several minor bug fixes related to text display and user interface issues. There's nothing particularly significant to analyze here, but overall, it's a good sign that the developers continue cleaning up smaller bugs alongside their larger gameplay adjustments. Overall, when I look at this update as a whole, I see a very clear direction. On one hand, the developers are making a conscious effort to strengthen and promote Justice League teams through the new faction bonus and by adding Supergirl to the combat cycle. On the other hand, they're also addressing long-standing infrastructure and gameplay balance issues, such as the overcrowded world map after server merges and the unintended battle honor farming behaviors surrounding Gotham Processing. This update is much more about rebalancing the game's overall ecosystem than flooding players with brand new content. Personally, I don't think that's a bad thing at all. A live service game needs updates like this to stay healthy over the long term, maintaining both fairness and enjoyment for new players and veterans alike. That wraps up my full analysis of this latest DC Dark Legion update. What do you think about these changes, especially the adjustments to Gotham Processing? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Your support motivates me to keep making more in-depth analysis videos like this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.